All right, pause swiping. Only for one moment. I need you to visualize something. Envision a Homo sapiens from 50,000 years past. Not some caveman from an animation, nor the grunting, stooped primitive beast Hollywood persistently portrays within films. An authentic human. Equal mind to yours. Equal lungs. Equal cravings. Identical potential for irritation. Delight. Plus truly poor choices. Identical precise anatomical machinery operating beneath their animal hide. Next, envision placing them inside a contemporary supermarket setting. They stand within the breakfast aisle. There exist 47 varieties of cereal. One of these is actually named Sugar Puffs. Another brand features an animated tiger on its cardboard declaring it is superb. He cannot comprehend what this tiger on a package signifies. He takes a trolley. He cannot fathom what a trolley represents. He learns its use rapidly, since he's brilliant. He's evaded deadly beasts his entire lifetime. He begins loading it. He walks past the chips. He traverses the icy meal department. He strolls past the bakery where something miraculous is occurring, utilizing flour, fat, and sweet. He has never throughout his existence encountered anything resembling this density of accessible calories. His mind is spinning completely out. Here's the inquiry, however. Not what occurs to him psychologically, nor how will he handle automated registers. Although that could form a brilliant video. The core query is this. Might that man, that primeval elite endurance mechanism perfected through millions of years of adaptation, genuinely grow overweight? Might he? Because here's the narrative we've been fed forever now. Early mankind stayed slender because they sprinted quite frequently. They stalked. They trekked miles each dawn. They remained essentially primeval sportsmen, possessing rock weapons, whilst we remain their underwhelming progeny, lounging upon sofas, devouring sugar puffs, straight from the carton near 11 at night. Yet what if this narrative remains unfinished? What if the true cause why primal peoples avoided obesity shares basically zero connection to how frequently they exercised? What if the physiology they handed down to us, the precise identical machinery operating within your physique this instant, is truly the cause corpulence grew achievable in the initial instance? And what if, under the proper circumstances, a primeval person and a contemporary individual might wind up at perfectly the identical outcome? Let's explore. Firstly, we must establish the backdrop accurately, since perspective truly counts deeply. We're not discussing Neanderthals, even though they're intriguing. We're not addressing any Homo erectus striking stones near a stream 2 million years past. We're focusing upon anatomically current people, Homo sapiens. Individuals who, should you wash them down, offer them a trim, and supply them a coat, might flawlessly stroll inside a pastry cafe and mix in flawlessly. Such beings existed between approximately 300,000 years past and around 10,000 years past, before the farming upheaval transformed the whole framework of mortal societies. They remained hunter-gatherers. Their entire survival centered upon one singular, harsh objective: locate meals, consume them, avoid perishing, restart. Basic in concept, utterly unforgiving in execution. Their menu remained diverse, intensely, unpredictably diverse, relying upon where they resided, which season it proved, and whatever the surroundings provided. They could consume mainly huge beasts one week, next vegetables and bulbs, next berries while they were in cycle, next seafood, next yolks, next bugs, which, for the record, remain truly loaded with nutrition, and not remotely as shocking as folks consider them. There existed no menus. There existed no timetables. There was zero notion that Tuesday meant spaghetti evening. There existed merely, what might I uncover nowadays? Plus, is this worth the stamina it requires me to obtain it? This final detail counts significantly, and we'll circle back to this. The second crucial factor remains this. Primeval people did not consume 3 banquets per dawn. They did not experience a midday pause. They did not graze. They feasted whenever sustenance appeared, and they did not dine whenever meals remained absent. Occasionally, sustenance remained absent for days. Sometimes meals proved unavailable for weeks, amidst brutal frosts or dry spells. There existed no fallback alternatives. There existed no backup larder. There remained zero courier software boasting a 30-minute promise. This was not some lifestyle preference. This represents purely the harsh truth of the environment they inhabited. Today, numerous folks digest all of this and reach towards the clear deduction. Naturally, early individuals remained quite slender. Naturally, they appeared rather trim. They stayed sprinting about all afternoon, expending massive quantities of stamina, while scarcely obtaining adequate nutrition to operate. Seems logical, correct? Wait up. This is where whatever you assume you understand gets silently deconstructed. Researchers have genuinely analyzed the nearest surviving counterparts we possess, matching primeval folks, enduring forager tribes who currently survive through the historic techniques. The most thoroughly researched amongst these remains the Hadza tribe in northern Tanzania. The Hadza prove remarkable. They currently track utilizing handcrafted archery. They currently scavenge. They traverse immense stretches by walking every single morning. Hadza females unearth roots across the tough African dirt, while transporting weighty burdens across quite vast stretches. Hadza males pursue prey throughout the exposed plains for hours. They do not commute. They never rest upon seats for 8 whole hours. They do not possess office careers. They exist the manner our forebears functioned, and their degree of everyday bodily exertion could devastate the typical contemporary individual inside roughly 4 working days. Therefore, once scientists fastened movement trackers upon Hadza grown-ups and genuinely quantified their everyday energy expenditure using exact gear, bypassing self-reporting, bypassing guesses, utilizing genuine metrics, everybody anticipated clear outcomes. Such individuals should be expending significantly extra nutrition than inactive Westerners. They didn't. The research printed within PLOS 1 determined that overall daily stamina consumption amongst the Hadza remained mathematically identical to grown-ups inside the United States, the United Kingdom, the Netherlands, Japan. Allow that to truly resonate. One Hadza female who treks miles throughout the plains, excavates through the dirt, transports fluids, plus tends her offspring amidst the African warmth, expends approximately the identical quantity of energy each dawn as one American female who commutes toward her workplace plus rests near one monitor for 8 hours. Identical overall energy. How proves this even conceivable? The solution remains one of the most astonishing facts regarding the mortal form, and it possesses a title: metabolic adaptation. Here's what occurs beneath the surface. Indeed, the Hadza exert themselves, significantly more, yet the physique is never some basic engine which expels extra power the stronger you drive it. The form operates more like a highly conservative bookkeeper, should you begin expending extra upon one specific category, bodily motion. The bookkeeper silently discovers reductions someplace different to maintain the overall ledger completely unchanged. The Hadza consume lower fuel while reposing. Their baseline metabolic speed, the fuel your form utilizes, simply to maintain you inhaling and your pulse thumping, plus your tissues operating, remains reduced compared to average Westerners once you account for physical mass. The immunity network becomes marginally scaled down. Specific tissue repair procedures operate a bit thriftier. Endocrine functions fluctuate. The consequence means that the aggregate everyday energy expenditure, whenever you tally all components, finishes up virtually parallel between one Hadza scavenger plus one corporate employee within Chicago. This represents no defect concerning our biological architecture. This shows adaptation performing precisely whatever adaptation manages, maintaining you breathing, and capable in an environment where nutritional abundance proves unpredictable, while stamina must be regulated, applying extreme caution. Yet here is what this reveals concerning early mankind. Provided the most vigorously energetic demographic existing currently expends the identical fuel as the most inactive societies. Consequently, bodily motion itself was never the central factor. Prehistoric mortals remained slender. The actual cause proved vastly easier. They couldn't acquire adequate meals, not since they weren't attempting, because the environment wouldn't supply it for them reliably enough to generate any extended nutritional excess. Plus, lacking in extended nutritional abundance, the physiology cannot hoard adequate lipids to achieve medical overweightness. Deprivation handled all the major burdensome work. Today we must discuss the absolute crucial component regarding this whole mystery: since here is exactly where things turn truly intriguing and also a bit disturbing. The primeval mortal physique proved never complacently indifferent regarding lipid accumulation. It remained fiercely, passionately pro-lipid. The entire network remained programmed deliberately to gather as much tissue as conceivable the instant meals proved accessible, since the organism recognized from profound ancestral instinct that sustenance might ultimately cease being accessible. This stands recorded inside what's termed the frugal genome theory, initially suggested through geneticist James Neal during 1962. The concept suggests that natural evolution deliberately preferred subjects who proved capable at hoarding fuel into lipids amidst phases of plenty, since these subjects proved highly probable to outlast the unavoidable starvations. The chromosomes which render lipid hoarding productive weren't mistakes. They represented evolutionary edges. The prehistoric person who might consume an excess of fruits and meat throughout a prosperous phase and hoard it entirely into physical mass was the survivor who pushed successfully past freezing. Everybody else perished, therefore those proficient weight-retaining traits multiplied. They evolved into standard. Each mortal breathing currently bears these traits. You harbor them. Your primeval forefather held them. The process remains exact. This implies the prehistoric individual stayed not slender since the primeval person didn't desire to retain mass. The physique frantically wished to hoard mass. It remained persistently attempting this. The early person stayed slender, since the surroundings literally wouldn't permit the physique to triumph. Therefore, here's the inquiry which must be rendering you uneasy right now. Select this identical physiology, this identical frugal, mass-gathering, energy-fixated system. Select these exact chromosomes. Next, insert them into an environment where nutrition runs cheap, sustenance proves accessible 24 hours each cycle, plus the sole obstacle separating you from 3,000 joules remains 5 minutes plus a smartphone. What occurs? You already understand. Since you're experiencing this, there's clear documented proof regarding precisely this clash unfolding actively during actual time, and it's one amongst the bleakest organic tests within clinical past. The Pima population across Arizona represent one amongst the highly referenced cases within overweight studies. Throughout millennia of time, they survived being cultivators plus scavengers across the Sonoran wasteland. They appeared slim. They proved energetic. They suffered zero corpulence crisis. They had adjusted toward a barren habitat wherein nutrition was difficult to obtain. Thus, the physiology needed to become proficient. Later, during the closing 19th century, upstream pioneers rerouted those streams the Pima depended upon regarding watering. Their ancestral agricultural networks failed. The American leadership intervened, offering nutritional aid relief initiatives. The rations delivered were overwhelmed using processed wheat, grease, tinned products, plus sweets. Inside one or two lineages, virtually a biological flash, the Pima had manifested certain of the greatest occurrences of overweightness plus type 2 diabetes ever documented across any mortal group. Frequencies which stunned scientists. Frequencies which held zero parallel throughout their past. Their DNA had never mutated in the least. Their nutritional landscape had shifted entirely. Plus the evidence that DNA wasn't the issue, their kin. The Pima that resided over the boundary within the Sierra Madre peaks in Mexico, the identical tribal unit, the identical primeval heritage, the identical historical genome, had persisted consuming a customary menu. They stayed substantially slimmer and biologically fitter than their Arizona equivalents. Identical coding, altered variables, utterly distinct result. The frugal trait is never a defect. It's an attribute which turned a glitch the second the ecosystem it was intended toward stopped to function. Next, let's drive this mental scenario deeper, since we've confirmed how primeval people possessed this lipid accumulation anatomy. We've confirmed how the surroundings provided the limitation, never the physiology. However, might a prehistoric mortal within their native realm ever genuinely become corpulent? Hypothetically, amidst highly precise circumstances, indeed. Not every early habitat remained similarly barren. Seaside plus riverside communities in particular possessed entry towards something uncommon. Condensed periodic nutritional wealth taking the shape of aquatic assets. Consider concerning trout migrations across the Pacific Northwest. During a couple weeks each cycle, Streams might surge with creatures so crowded, someone could literally plunge hands and snatch them. The nutritional payload of salmon, intense lipid, intense protein, remains exceptional. One settlement which settled near a stream amidst a trout migration and feasted fiercely might conceivably devour massive energetic excesses throughout an elongated duration. Should this occur to align with an abnormally temperate frost when hoarded mass wasn't consumed as rapidly as anticipated, it's at minimum physically conceivable that subjects within this community might bear extra physical mass than proved absolutely essential regarding survival. However, and this remains vital, they virtually definitely couldn't achieve medical corpulence, as society classifies it nowadays. Since the sustenance, although in plenty, missed the exact mixture of traits which fuels contemporary overeating at magnitude. Organic meals, albeit dense organic meals, triggers your fullness indicators. The lipid inside a natural trout provokes endocrine reactions, which inform your mind you've consumed adequately. The amino inside hunted flesh proves fulfilling. The roughage inside roots delays processing. The diversity of consistencies and tastes across an unprocessed regimen generates what scientists dub sensory-targeted satisfaction, the biological inclination to cease desiring a meal after you've acquired sufficient of this. One trout is satisfying. Someone can merely ingest so much trout before their physique raises the surrender flag. You cannot state the identical regarding a sack of crisps, since the crisp was deliberately designed to never prompt fullness. The exact proportion of sodium, lipid, plus starch inside hyper-manufactured nutrition is adjusted, not unintentionally, not coincidentally, rather intentionally, to strike what culinary experts dub the ecstasy threshold, the mixture which optimizes joy whilst decreasing the satisfaction alert. The blend which renders the subsequent crisp appear exactly as enticing as the initial piece, since your mind's gratification network never fully receives the fulfillment it was guaranteed. The primordial era did not possess such advancements. Wilderness never generated a ecstasy threshold item, since wilderness held zero motivation to stop you from experiencing satisfaction. Merely some enterprise which gains upon your prolonged swallowing holds this motivation. The historical archive supports every single detail up via manners that appear virtually distressingly evident. Whenever biological researchers inspect bony fossils of Stone Age forager-scavenger communities, the image which surfaces remains one reflecting broadly spectacular physiological fitness. Skeletal thickness proves immense. Cartilage degradation designs imply a lifespan featuring diverse practical motion instead of recurring tension. Tooth coating, although degraded through rough items, displays insignificant signs regarding decay across pre-farming groups, since the processed carbohydrates which nourish decay-generating microbes frankly weren't components of the menu. There exists zero osseous proof regarding the type of persistent hormonal illness society links toward corpulence. Zero proof concerning the skeletal alterations connected toward extreme ligament tension from surplus physical mass. Zero indications regarding the vascular shifts linked toward lifetimes of cholesterol buildup. Such humans were not unwell. Next farming occurs. Approximately 10,000 cycles past, mortals commence establishing, cultivating harvests, hoarding wheat. Plus the bony archive alters virtually instantly through patterns, which must startle us further than they manage. Typical stature decreases, across certain communities, by numerous inches inside merely a handful lifespans post the agrarian shift. Skeletal thickness diminishes. Decays manifest alongside abruptly elevated rates. Indications regarding dietary lack, specifically mineral shortage weakness, emerge up inside the skeletal structure. Proof regarding persistent sickness plus contagious afflictions rises whenever demographics cluster inside villages. Behold the paradox. Cultivation granted humanity excess. It granted humanity the capacity to hoard nutrition, to forecast upcoming seasons' energy stock, to construct metropolises, plus ultimately society. Yet the instant biological price remained massive. One restricted menu controlled through whatever cereal was regionally cultivated signified reduced dietary diversity. Plus importantly, during the initial instance throughout mortal past, communities might exist inside a condition regarding extended nutritional abundance. During the initial occasion, deprivation wasn't dictating the baseline. Farming didn't instantly trigger corpulence at magnitude. Folks remained still laboring remarkably intensely to cultivate the terrain. Yet it established the foundation. This eliminated the absolute foundational organic limitation which had been holding the frugal trait under control across hundreds of millennia of time. The modern supermarket was conceived the moment the initial silo became erected. Humanity simply didn't recognize those repercussions for another 10,000 cycles. Let's confront the bodily conditioning debate straightly, since it's the highly frequent counterargument. Although if the nutritional arithmetic appeared comparable, definitely all this motion signified primeval mortals possessed reduced physical lipids, plus extra muscular tissue. Definitely those bodily rigors regarding endurance offered some type of anatomical safeguard which rendered overweightness unachievable, irrespective of nutritional consumption. Somewhat, certainly. That aspect remains factual. Forager-scavengers perpetually display superior muscular volume and diminished physical lipid ratios compared to contemporary inactive demographics, although whenever overall energy expenditure remains equal. Those Hadza aren't solely expending the identical energy as Westerners. They're additionally remarkably trimmer, plus highly powerful throughout every demographic bracket. Elder Hadza seniors surpass far youthful Western citizens regarding circulatory endurance metrics. This bodily hardening, which arises through one lifespan, featuring practical exertion, proves real and substantial. Yet this doesn't alter the core mathematical balance. Those Hadza aren't trim since they motion further, plus consequently expend extra energy. They're slender since they consume one raw, diverse, organically fulfilling menu containing 0 ecstasy threshold products, 0 hyper-manufactured treats, plus 0 synthesized energetic concentration. Should someone grant the Hadza entry toward one Occidental menu whilst they upheld their customary existence, retained all this trekking, all this scavenging, all this bodily exertion, the data heavily implies they might nevertheless acquire mass, since the nutritional math must transform, never the expenditure half of the formula, the ingestion half. Motion assists. It truly functions, plus not merely regarding mass control. These circulatory, digestive, endocrine, plus mental advantages surrounding consistent bodily exertion remain factual plus immense. However, activity solely, lacking tackling whatever enters inside the organism, proves not the bypass toggle which the fitness sector has wasted decades feigning it represents. Therefore, let's supply this inquiry a genuine solution. Might prehistoric mortals grow corpulent? Inside their native habitat, virtually absolutely negative. Not since the physiology functioned differently. Not since they possessed elite restraint or determination, or any historic righteousness we've lately misplaced. Rather, since the surroundings practically blocked this prolonged nutritional excess necessary for corpulence to emerge. Deprivation proved the standard baseline. Starvation acted the recurrent balancer. Organic, unrefined, fulfilling nourishment remained the singular provision which survived. Their physiques passionately desired to accumulate lipid. The planet simply wouldn't grant them sufficient base substance to accomplish this in magnitude. Plunge this identical primeval individual amidst our contemporary culinary landscape, grant them entry toward hyper-manufactured goods designed to vanquish satisfaction, inactive labor, synthetic illumination scrambling their slumber plus stress cycles, persistent mental pressure boosting their craving chemicals, plus a courier software which places 10,000 joules into grasp during whatever moment. They might remain equally as susceptible like any modern individual, potentially worse, since they'd hold 0 societal structure regarding moderation, 0 lived familiarity with wealth, 0 comprehension regarding what one portion amount signifies or why it could signify. Their mind, observing a drive-through listing during the initial instance, might interpret this as the grandest nutritional jackpot throughout the heritage of their civilization. Each primordial reflex might yell, "Consume everything, all of this, immediately now. Hoard each morsel. Frost is eternally arriving." Here's what everything of this genuinely implies. We represent prehistoric mortals, never figuratively, absolutely. We harbor the identical traits, the identical digestive framework, the identical endocrine gratification networks, the identical frugal physiology. The divide separating one Homo sapiens during 48,000 BCE and yourself viewing this right now, remains, across biological scales, practically zero. Some couple thousand lineages, one flicker. The form which adapted to outlast deprivation is currently maneuvering a realm showcasing synthesized wealth, and it is floundering. Never since it's damaged, rather since it's performing precisely whatever it was constructed to accomplish inside an ecosystem it was never designed toward. Each instance you sense how you cannot halt following a handful crisps, that's never some behavioral defect. That's one neurological network, which evolved to optimize nutritional ingestion, meeting nutrition deliberately engineered to block fulfillment. Each occasion something sugary fails, rendering you feeling as satisfied as one slice of genuine fruit does. That's never frailty. That's your satisfaction chemicals missing, to detect an item which was formulated to sneak beyond these. Each moment you're authentically stuffed, however the pastry listing nevertheless appears compelling. That's historic gratification wiring, reacting toward lipid plus sweetness, the manner it became programmed to react across 300,000 cycles. Resembling one alert that this period of wealth remains invaluable and must never become squandered. The primeval mortal remains neither a metaphor nor some warning fable. The prehistoric person represents the rationale. He didn't grow overweight since the planet wouldn't permit him. We handed him the planet, and today we're occupying the ultimate consequence.